I rolled into Free City Autos and immediately felt the shift in the room. Conversations stopped. Eyes followed me. And then a salesman approached. A thin, greasy-haired man whose name tag read, Paul.
Can I help you with something? Because if you're just looking around, we're pretty busy today.
I'm interested in purchasing a vehicle. I'd like to see what you have available.
Look, lady, I don't want to waste your time or mine. Cars are expensive, and most people like you are just window shopping. Maybe you should try the used lot down the street.
I assure you, money isn't an issue. I'd like to see your inventory.
Money isn't an issue? Right. Listen, sweetheart, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I can tell when someone's serious and when they're just playing pretend. Someone as useless as you probably shouldn't even have a license.
The word useless hit me like a physical blow, but I'd been here before. I took a deep breath and straightened my spine. I want to speak to your manager. Now—
Oh, you want to speak to the manager? Classic. Let me guess. You're going to complain about the big, mean salesman?
Paul walked away, laughing and shaking his head. They say money can't buy happiness, but it sure can buy justice. My name is Rachel, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes when the world treats you like you're less than human, you have to show them exactly who has the power. I was 7 years old when the accident happened. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit the car I was riding in with my parents. They walked away with minor injuries. I didn't. The doctors said I'd never walk again, and they were right. But what they couldn't predict was how that wheelchair would become both my greatest challenge and eventually my greatest weapon. Growing up was hell. Kids can be cruel, but adults are worse because they should know better. I lost count of how many times people talked over me, around me, or about me like I wasn't even there. Store clerks would address my parents instead of me when I was trying to buy something. Strangers would either stare or go out of their way to avoid looking at me at all. But I had something they didn't expect. A brain that could see patterns where others saw chaos. While other kids were playing video games, I was reading about the stock market. While they were at parties, I was studying investment strategies. By the time I was 18, I'd turned a small inheritance from my grandmother into a 6-figure portfolio. By 25, I was a millionaire. By 30, I had enough money to buy and sell half the businesses in town. But success felt hollow when I was experiencing it alone. That's why I decided to use my money for something that mattered. I bought an old community center downtown and renovated it specifically for people with disabilities. It wasn't charity. It was creating a space where people like me could exist without constantly having to prove our worth. That's where I met James and Gunther. James had been born with cerebral palsy, and Gunther had lost his legs in a military accident overseas. Despite our different circumstances, we understood each other in a way that people without disabilities never could. We'd meet every Tuesday for coffee and conversation, sharing stories about our week and supporting each other through the daily frustrations of living in a world that wasn't built for us. But one Tuesday, both of them arrived looking defeated.
I had the worst experience yesterday. I went to that dealership on 5th Street, Free City Autos, to buy a car. The salesman took one look at me and treated me like crap. No way, I was just there too. A week ago, but same treatment. They acted like I was wasting their time just by rolling through the door.
I felt my jaw clench as they described how the staff had been dismissive, condescending, and downright cruel. James said a salesman had actually suggested he reconsider whether he really needed a car. Gunther told me they'd made jokes about special accommodations right in front of him. I had heard of that place. Big, flashy, always advertising on the radio about their premium service and family values. Apparently, their definition of family didn't include people like us. The next day, I decided to see for myself. I wore designer clothes, expensive jewelry, the works. Not that it mattered once they saw the wheelchair. I rolled into Free City Autos and immediately felt the shift in the room. Conversations stopped. Eyes followed me. And then a salesman approached. A thin, greasy-haired man whose name tag read, Paul.
Can I help you with something? Because if you're just looking around, we're pretty busy today.
I'm interested in purchasing a vehicle. I'd like to see what you have available.
Look, lady, I don't want to waste your time or mine. Cars are expensive, and most people like you are just window shopping. Maybe you should try the used lot down the street.
I assure you, money isn't an issue. I'd like to see your inventory.
Money isn't an issue? Right. Listen, sweetheart, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I can tell when someone's serious and when they're just playing pretend. Someone as useless as you probably shouldn't even have a license.
The word useless hit me like a physical blow, but I'd been here before. I took a deep breath and straightened my spine. I want to speak to your manager. Now,
Oh, you want to speak to the manager? Classic. Let me guess. You're going to complain about the big, mean salesman?
Paul walked away, laughing and shaking his head. A few minutes later, he returned with a heavy-set man in his 40s wearing a cheap suit and a nastier expression.
John, this lady wants to complain about me. Apparently, I hurt her feelings. What seems to be the problem here, miss?
Your employee has been incredibly rude and discriminatory. I came here to purchase a vehicle, and I've been treated with nothing but disrespect.
Well, maybe if you were realistic about your limitations, this wouldn't be an issue. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. This is a business, not a charity. We sell cars to people who can actually drive them properly. Exactly. What's next? We're supposed to install training wheels?
They both laughed at Paul's joke, and something inside me snapped. These men weren't just being rude. They were being deliberately cruel, taking pleasure in my humiliation. I've heard enough. This is disgusting behavior, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows about it.
Oh, we're real scared. What are you going to do, roll over our feet?
Before I could respond, John grabbed the handles of my wheelchair without permission, the ultimate violation of a disabled person's autonomy, and began pushing me toward the exit. I tried to protest, but he ignored me completely.
Time for you to go. And don't bother coming back. We don't serve your type here.
As he pushed me out the front door, there were 3 concrete steps leading down to the sidewalk. Instead of helping me navigate them safely, John gave my chair a hard shove. I tumbled forward, the wheelchair tipping, and I fell face first onto the concrete. Pain shot through my hands and face as I hit the ground, and I heard John laughing behind me. A woman walking by immediately rushed to help me, lifting me back into my wheelchair and checking to make sure I wasn't seriously hurt.
Are you okay? I saw what happened. That man assaulted you. I'll be a witness if you want to press charges.
Thank you. I'm going to remember that. I took her information and thanked her, but I wasn't thinking about police reports just yet. I was thinking about something much more permanent. I drove straight to the bank where I did most of my business. When you have enough money, banks treat you very differently. Within minutes, I was sitting across from their senior account manager, Margaret. Margaret, I need you to find out who owns Free City Autos on 5th Street, and I need to know if they'd be interested in selling.
That's an interesting request, Rachel. Let me make some calls.
It turned out that Free City Autos was owned by a 70-year-old man named Frank Douglas, who'd been looking to retire but couldn't find a buyer. Margaret knew him personally and arranged a meeting for the next day. The next day, Frank met with me and asked why I was interested in buying the dealership. Being honest, I told him I had a very poor customer service experience there recently, and I think the business could use new management. He sighed heavily and made an attempt to apologize, but I cut him off and told him that it was too late for such things. He then asked what I was offering, to which I told him that I would pay whatever price he had in mind, plus I would pay 20% above that. The only condition is that the sale needed to remain a secret until after it was complete. Frank nearly choked on his coffee. He named a figure, I added 20%, and we had a deal. Within a week, all the paperwork was signed, and I owned Free City Autos. But John and Paul didn't know that yet. I hired 2 security guards and returned to the dealership exactly 1 week after they'd humiliated me. I found Paul first, leaning against a car and talking on his phone. Excuse me, Paul, I'd like to buy a car today.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I thought we made it clear you weren't welcome here.
John appeared from across the lot, recognizing my voice.
What's this lunatic doing back here? I thought I told you not to come back.
I'm here to make a purchase. Will you sell me a car or not?
Lady, you could bring a dozen bodyguards, and we still wouldn't sell a useless cripple like you a car. This is a respectable business.
That's really unfortunate. Because you're both fired.
Fired? Who the hell do you think you are?
I pulled out the deed to the dealership and held it up for them to see. I'm the new owner. Frank sold this place to me. I'm your new boss. And my first executive decision is to terminate your employment, effective immediately. The color drained from both their faces as they realized what had happened. Paul grabbed the deed from my hands, reading it frantically.
This is impossible. This is some kind of trick. You can't do this to us. We've worked here for years.
I can, and I have. Security will escort you off the property now. That's when they both snapped. John lunged toward me, his face twisted with rage, while Paul circled around my other side. The security guards I'd hired immediately stepped in. There was a brief struggle, and I heard Paul scream as one of the guards punched and twisted his arm to subdue him. The sound of bone breaking was unmistakable.
My arm. You broke my arm.
The guards escorted both men off the property while Paul cradled his broken arm and John cursed at me with every step. But I wasn't done with them yet. I called the police and filed trespassing charges against both men. When the officers arrived, they found John and Paul trying to break back into the building through a side door, apparently thinking they could retrieve their personal belongings. The arrest was swift and satisfying. The next day, I went to the police station and filed assault charges against John for what he'd done to me the week before. The witness I'd met that day came forward exactly as she'd promised, and her testimony was damning. A month later, both men stood before a judge. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage of them attacking me, witness testimony of the assault, and documentation of their trespassing. They were each sentenced to a year in prison. But a year wasn't enough for me. Not after a lifetime of people like them making people like me feel worthless. While they were in prison, I made some calls. I contacted every car dealership in our city and the 3 neighboring cities. I told them the story of what John and Paul had done, complete with documentation and news articles about their convictions. By the time they were released, they were blacklisted from every dealership within a 100-mile radius. When they finally got out of prison, they were desperate. Both men eventually found work at a small coffee shop called Hometown Brew. It took me exactly 2 days to find out where they were working. I paid a visit to the owner, a sweet older woman named Dorothy. I told her the whole story, showed her the news articles, and even brought photos of my injuries from when John had pushed me down the stairs. Dorothy was horrified. They were fired that same day. Word got back to me that John and Paul were furious, convinced that I was somehow stalking them. So I decided to make myself clear. I found them both at a bar downtown and approached their table. Gentlemen, I hear you're looking for work again.
You psycho. You're ruining our lives. This is harassment. We'll call the police.
Go ahead. But here's the thing. I have more money than both of you will ever see in your lifetimes. And I have a very long memory. No matter where you go, no matter who hires you, I will make sure they know exactly what kind of people you are. I will dedicate as much time and resources as it takes to ensure that you never forget how it feels to be treated like you're worthless. Within a month, both men had left the country. John moved to Canada, Paul to Mexico. They'd rather start over in a foreign country than continue to deal with the consequences of their actions. Some people might say I went too far, that my revenge was petty, that I should have just moved on with my life. But they don't understand what it's like to spend every day of your life being treated as less than human simply because of how your body works. For 30 years, I'd absorbed every cruel comment, every dismissive look, every act of casual discrimination. John and Paul weren't just 2 random jerks. They were representatives of every person who'd ever made me feel small, worthless, or invisible. I didn't destroy their lives out of pure spite. I did it to send a message. People with disabilities aren't helpless victims you can abuse without consequences. We have power too, and sometimes we need to use it. My community center is thriving now. James bought a beautiful car from the new management at Free City Autos, which I completely reorganized to be disability-friendly. Gunther did too. We still meet every Tuesday, but now our conversations are about possibilities rather than problems. Thanks for watching. The way he had gone out of his way to make my life a living hell. Maybe it was the sheer cruelty of this moment, the fact that he wasn't even pretending to care about a pregnant woman. I had done everything right. I had worked hard, endured his nonsense, stayed late, met every deadline, swallowed every insult. And now, when I needed something, something I had every legal right to. He wasn't just saying no. He was daring me to quit. You're a pathetic excuse for a man, Daniel.
What did you just say?
I said you're pathetic. You don't belong in this office, and you know it. That's why you try so hard to tear others down. That's why you hate me. Because no matter what you do, I'll always be better than you. I hate you so much, and I'm going to report this to Mr. Lancaster. The office had changed ever since Daniel Weston walked in. Before him, work was tough, but fair. There were expectations, but also appreciation. We were a team. We had each other's backs. The CEO, Mr. Lancaster, made sure we knew our worth. Then Daniel arrived. He came in like a storm, tearing through everything good about this place. He wasn't just strict, he was cruel. He pushed people until they cracked, then mocked them for not keeping up. Deadlines became impossible. Lunch breaks turned into a privilege, not a right. He cut overtime pay, increased work hours, and made sure we knew he could replace us at any moment. Daniel would ask interns to wash his car and bring him food. Sometimes when he arrived at work, he expected employees to bow and greet him. He even made them carry his suitcase to his office. And he especially hated me. Maybe it was because, despite everything, I refused to let him break me. Maybe it was because Mr. Lancaster still noticed my hard work and praised me for it. Maybe it was just because I existed. Whatever the reason, Daniel had made it his mission to make my life miserable. He would single me out in meetings, nitpicking the smallest things. He once made me redo an entire report 3 times because of a single misplaced comma. Another time, he assigned me a project 2 minutes before my shift ended and demanded it be on his desk by the next morning. I was already exhausted. But I couldn't afford to lose this job, so I pushed through. Then came the rumors. I heard whispers in the break room. People saying Daniel had been calling me Mr. Lancaster's pet behind my back, that I must have been sleeping with him to get special treatment. I wanted to scream. Special treatment? I worked harder than anyone here. I earned every bit of recognition I got. But Daniel twisted it, made it dirty, turned my success into something shameful. And people believed him. They stopped talking to me as much, stopped asking for my input, stopped trusting me. Daniel saw it, and he was happy. He continued like that until one day, everything changed. I was pregnant. When I broke the news to my husband, he was overjoyed. After a few months, it was time for me to take my maternity leave. And now, I needed something from Daniel. Something I knew he wouldn't give me without a fight. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and marched to his office. I knocked and opened the door, but I didn't walk in. Daniel had banned me from walking into his office.
What do you want? I would prefer not seeing your face today.
I came to follow up on my maternity leave request. I submitted it last week. He didn't even let me finish before he told me it was denied. I was shocked. How could he deny a worker her maternal leave? That was ridiculous. But sir, company policy states that maternity leave is every worker's right. How can you deny mine?
I don't care what company policy states, Amber. I run this office, and I say no.
I felt the blood drain from my face. He wasn't even going to pretend to have a reason. He was just saying no. I decided to beg him. Maybe he needed to see me drop my defense, so I did. Sir, please. I need this leave. Please. Mr. Daniel, I beg of you.
If you really need it, quit. You'll be easily replaced. By the way, I am curious if the pregnancy for your husband or Mr. Lancaster.
I couldn't believe my ears as I stared at him, waiting for some kind of explanation, some kind of logic. But it never came. Daniel went back to typing on his laptop as if I wasn't standing there. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the months of abuse, the endless torment, the way he had gone out of his way to make my life a living hell. Maybe it was the sheer cruelty of this moment, the fact that he wasn't even pretending to care about a pregnant woman. I had done everything right. I had worked hard, endured his nonsense, stayed late, met every deadline, swallowed every insult. And now, when I needed something I had every legal right to, he wasn't just saying no. He was daring me to quit. You're a pathetic excuse for a man, Daniel.
What did you just say?
I said you're pathetic. You don't belong in this office, and you know it. That's why you try so hard to tear others down. That's why you hate me. Because no matter what you do, I'll always be better than you. I hate you so much, and I'm going to report this to Mr. Lancaster. The room went deathly silent. His face twisted, veins bulging at his temple. I knew I had gotten to him very badly. Before I could react, he moved. Faster than I expected, faster than I could dodge, his hand shot out and slammed into my chest, shoving me backward. I stumbled, gasping as pain shot through me, and then he hit me again. This time, it was a full-force shove. I lost my footing, and before I could catch myself, my back slammed against the edge of the desk. A sharp, searing pain tore through my stomach. I screamed, my hands instinctively clutching at my belly. I was scared. He looked so angry. I began screaming, calling for help. Luckily, one of the workers, Liam, rushed into the office and saw the situation. He yelled at Daniel to let me go.
You want to act tough? You want to get me fired, huh? I'm pathetic? You're insane for saying that. How dare you? I'm your boss, you idiot. This isn't your business.
He dragged Daniel away from me, shoving him back with enough force to send him staggering. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air, clutching my stomach.
Did you just put your hands on a pregnant woman? You psycho.
Daniel straightened his suit, glaring at Liam.
This isn't your business. Go. The hell it isn't. She's hurt. You're a monster.
I screamed again as a sharp pain rippled through my abdomen. I immediately knew something was wrong. When I looked down, I saw blood. I screamed. Liam immediately turned to me and looked so scared as he saw the blood. He quickly lifted me and began screaming for someone to call the ambulance. The whole company was thrown into an uproar. I was getting weaker. Thankfully, the ambulance arrived quickly and I was taken to a nearby hospital. I woke up in a hospital room. The pain in my stomach was dull, but still there. I was trying to figure out if I could move my limbs when a doctor opened the door and walked in. She looked like she was happy to see me awake, but I could also see sadness in her eyes. I understood the reason for the sadness when I asked about my child. I had a miscarriage. According to the doctor, whatever happened to me was severe and managed to affect my pregnancy. They tried to save my child, but had to choose between my life or my child's life, and my husband chose mine. I broke down. I sent the doctor out and refused to see anyone. All I did was cry. My head ached so badly until I fainted. I couldn't forgive Daniel. He took my child from me. I wasn't just sad, I wasn't just broken, I was furious, and I was going to make Daniel pay. I spent 2 whole weeks lying in a hospital bed, my mental health messed up, my last struggling to respond to medications. And there was not a single call from my workplace, not even a text or an email. Nothing. I wasn't surprised. I had no idea what lie Daniel must have cooked again. The workers knew I'd passed out in his office, but Daniel was a certified liar. He could have said something to them that was completely against what happened. Otherwise, Mr. Lancaster would also have called. That gave me even more reasons to want to erase Daniel. I started by texting my coworkers first, the ones who knew about his wickedness. I told them if they wanted Daniel to pay for all he's done to us, they should meet me when I get out. I sent it to 5 people I trusted. And one by one, the replies came in, agreeing to it. 2 weeks later, I was discharged from the hospital. My next focus was taking everything from Daniel. I met the workers at a restaurant far from the office, where no one would overhear us. Liam was there, of course he was. He was the one who pulled Daniel off me, the only one who had the guts to stand up to him in the moment. Then there was Claire, who had been with the company for years and hated what it had become under Daniel's leadership. Mark, who had been Daniel's right-hand man when Daniel had newly been assigned his role, until he realized what kind of monster he was working for. Sophie, one of the HR reps, who had tried to report Daniel's behavior, but had been issued a stern warning by Daniel himself. And Jake, one of the interns, who had seen too much and wanted revenge just as much as I did. We're going to destroy him. Does anyone have an idea of how we can go about it?
I thought you'd never ask. I do.
The plan came together faster than I expected. Daniel had enemies. He had a trail of destruction behind him. It was just a matter of exposing it. Claire had access to records, emails, reports, things that showed just how corrupt Daniel was. Sophie had access to HR complaints that had been buried. We gathered everything. Every unethical decision, every harassment report, every shady deal, and then we leaked it. A carefully crafted email was sent to the CEO, board members, and every major news outlet in the city. Within hours, whispers started. By morning, Daniel's name was everywhere. While there was being dealt with, Mark struck. Mark knew Daniel's schedule inside and out. He knew exactly when Daniel would be in an important meeting, so we planned accordingly. Jake hacked into the office projector system. Right in the middle of a presentation Daniel was having, the afternoon or the second day, the screen flickered. And then, instead of his report, a slideshow of his worst emails, his worst behavior, his insults toward employees, his outright illegal actions, and of course, the day he pushed me, a pregnant woman, flashed across the screen. Right in front of the CEO, right in front of the investors, right in front of everyone who mattered. The CEO rained insults on him.
We were trying not to believe what's circulating in the news about you, but this just proves that you're nothing but a disgusting monster. Get out of my company.
By now, Daniel was panicking. He knew his days were numbered. That's when I made my move. Once Daniel got to the company, I stormed in. I'd already spoken to Mr. Lancaster. The man had called me to apologize. According to him, Daniel had told everyone that I tried to force myself on him, so he pushed me away because he found it disgusting that a married woman would do such a thing. I walked into his office, boiling with anger. I pushed the door open and looked him dead in the eyes. "You animal! How dare you! You made me lose my child and still had the guts to lie about it when you assaulted me." The workers immediately gathered as they heard my loud voice. I told everyone what he did and dared him to deny. He couldn't. He looked at the floor in shame, unable to even say a word. "You're so pathetic, Daniel. You're sick. You're insane, and I hope you rot in jail." Before he could react, 2 police officers stepped inside. Mark had called them. One of them held up a warrant.
Mr. Daniel, you're under arrest for assault, workplace harassment, and defamation of character.
Daniel, as shameless as he was, tried to fight with the cops. But he was no match for them. He was handcuffed and dragged out of the company, with the workers watching everything unfold.
You can't do this. Don't listen to Amber, she's crazy.
I found it funny. It was quite rich calling me crazy, when he was the one thrashing and screaming like a crazy man. Mr. Lancaster walked in just in time before everyone dispersed. He apologized to me again, publicly now. He gave me back my job and promised to make the company a healthy place again. 1 week later, Daniel was taken to the court. He had so many people testifying against him in the court, even those who were his people. The testimonies against him plus the evidence was more than enough. Daniel was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. He screamed and cried as he was being pulled away, but no one pitied him, especially not me. When people saw how cruel Daniel had been, his wife was attacked by thugs just 3 days after he was locked up. Tragically, she lost their baby. She had been pregnant. When she visited Daniel to break the news, he was devastated. Knowing he wouldn't be released for 15 years, Daniel sank into deep depression. Fearing for her life, his wife filed for divorce and sent him a letter saying she couldn't wait that long and still wanted to have a child. I knew all of this because my husband was the head warden at the prison where Daniel was locked up. He vowed to make Daniel's life miserable. One time, he set Daniel up, making it look like Daniel had snitched on another inmate. As a result, Daniel was hated and relentlessly bullied, all while my husband was the mastermind behind it all. At one point, he was set up and thrown into solitary confinement. The isolation took a toll on him until he began to lose his sanity. Thanks for watching.
Yes, and she will pay for that. But you needed to know. The true cruelty was Martin's. He told her to be hard on you so you'd run away. He wanted you gone.
I woke up with my heart racing. The next day, I tested it. I aimed my hunger at only Martin. Clarice looked fine, but Martin groaned and clutched his stomach. It was him all along. Clarice was cruel, yes, but he was the architect. With my powers, I planted a series of traps. He forgot an important work meeting, got fired. He tripped and broke his ankle while rushing to yell at me. I made him feel the burn of boiling water just by touching my tea. My name is Daniel. I grew up knowing only my mom's love. My dad? He left when I was 3, without a backward glance. Mom never spoke badly about him, but I could see the pain in her eyes whenever his name came up. Mom was the hardest working person I knew. She worked 2 jobs, a cashier during the day and a cleaner at night. She'd come home smelling faintly of bleach, her hands cracked from scrubbing floors, but she'd still have the energy to help me with homework and make my favorite dinner when she could. Aunt Clarice was different. When I was younger, she was always smiling, slipping me candy during family gatherings, whispering, "Don't tell your mom," like it was our little secret. She'd compliment my drawings, ruffle my hair, and promise to take me to the zoo one day. I thought she was the coolest aunt ever. But that was before Mom died. It was a cold, gray morning, the day of her funeral. I stood by the casket, my hands clenched into fists, wishing I could trade places with her. My heart felt hollow. After the service, Clarice put on her warmest smile.
Don't worry, Danny. You'll stay with us now. We'll take good care of you.
Her husband, Uncle Martin, nodded stiffly. Yeah, we'll manage. Thank you.
And your mom? She left something for you. We'll keep it safe.
I later found out she was talking about the money Mom had saved for my future. College funds, emergency cash. Clarice didn't keep it safe. Within weeks, it was gone. Spent on her endless shopping sprees, new handbags, salon trips, and luxury perfumes. My future was hanging in her closet. The abuse didn't take long to start. One rainy day, I walked home from school with no umbrella. My jacket was soaked, my teeth chattering. When I got inside, water dripped from my sleeves onto the tile.
You're making the floor dirty.
I'm cold.
Then mop it up, now, and do it properly.
I stood there shivering as I mopped every drop off the floor while she sipped tea in the living room. Clarice and Martin's cruelty became routine. If I dropped a fork, I'd get yelled at. If I was late from school, I'd go hungry. They didn't just starve me. They seemed to enjoy it. One afternoon, I came home late because I had stayed after school to take an important exam. Clarice was waiting at the door.
You think you can stroll in whenever you like?
I had an exam?
Don't care, sleep outside.
And she locked the door. I curled up on the porch that night, but strangely, I didn't feel the cold. The next morning, when I walked in, both Clarice and Martin were wrapped in blankets, shivering like they'd been out in the snow. By the time my 13th birthday came, I had stopped expecting presents or cake. That day, Clarice didn't even acknowledge it. I went to bed with tears in my eyes, then slipped out to the cemetery. I knelt by Mom's grave, running my fingers over the cold stone. Mom, I can't take it anymore. Please, please help me. Give me a birthday gift. Make it stop. I just want to be free from them. I stayed there until the wind chilled my bones, then went home and fell asleep. That night, she came to me.
My boy, you've suffered long enough.
Mom, please, I can't. I'm so tired.
From now on, the pain they give you will be theirs. The cold, the hunger, all of it will touch them first. You will also see the future so you can set your path. Use it well.
The very next day, while I was dusting the shelves, Clarice stormed into the room.
You're too slow, always dragging your feet.
Before I could react, she swung her hand across my face, but the instant her palm connected, she yelped in pain, clutching her own hand instead of looking satisfied. I froze, confused, as she scowled and walked away in annoyance without saying another word. A few days later, she skipped my dinner again. I sat at the table, my stomach suddenly feeling full, and I watched as she and Martin clutched their stomachs, groaning.
Why do I feel like I haven't eaten in days?
I just smiled. 1 week later, I saw a flash in my head. Clarice rushing down the hall with laundry, tripping over a box. In real life, the box was out of the way, but I moved it back and added a stool in the perfect spot. Guess what? She hit her body so badly when she fell, everything happened as I had seen.
Ah, my hip!
Oh no, guess you should watch where you're going. A few days later, Martin tried to shove me toward the stove again. His hand touched the pan, and he screamed, jerking back. What the hell? How am I burned instead of you? Are you a witch? Guess I'm just lucky. And I walked away, grinning. I began to use my powers deliberately. One day, I foresaw the answers to a big exam before even stepping into the hall. I aced it, and my high score landed me a well-paying part-time job while still in school. The better I got at controlling my gift, the more I used it against them. If they tried to hurt me, they got hurt. If they tried to freeze me, they froze instead. Through my new power, I saw Martin planning to take Clarice out for their anniversary. I decided, no. The morning of, I focused hard on his mind. By lunch, he'd completely forgotten. She screamed at him for hours. Over the next year, I turned their lives into a slow, miserable spiral. If they hit me, they'd clutch the same spot in pain. If I was cold, they'd shiver uncontrollably, no matter how high the heat. When they tried to humiliate me, they'd stutter, forget words, or even say the wrong names in front of their friends. It was working so well, until I saw a vision I wasn't ready for. In it, my mother stood beside Clarice, and she was smiling. That night, she came to me in another dream. Mom, why are you with her?
Because, my boy, she is not your enemy.
I froze.
Your uncle wanted to send you to a foster home. Clarice kept you here, not because she loves you, but because she promised me before I died that you wouldn't be lost in the system.
But she hurt me.
Yes, and she will pay for that. But you needed to know. The true cruelty was Martin's. He told her to be hard on you so you'd run away. He wanted you gone.
I woke up with my heart racing. The next day, I tested it. I aimed my hunger at only Martin. Clarice looked fine, but Martin groaned and clutched his stomach. It was him all along. Clarice was cruel, yes, but he was the architect. With my powers, I planted a series of traps. He forgot an important work meeting, got fired. He tripped and broke his ankle while rushing to yell at me. I made him feel the burn of boiling water just by touching my tea. The last straw came when I foresaw him trying to hit me with his cane. I focused, and he stumbled backward, hitting his head on the edge of the table. Not fatal, but humiliating enough for Clarice to scream at him in front of neighbors. I'm 17. I still live with Clarice, but she's different now. Not nice, but quieter. She doesn't hit me anymore. She leaves me food, sometimes even my favorite kind. Martin? He lives in a dingy apartment alone. I had made Clarice kick him out for cheating using my powers. He can't keep a job. Every now and then, I check in with him, just to remind him that pain has a long memory. And me? I dream of my mom often.
Use it well, my boy, and don't forget to live.
So yeah, that's my story. My evil aunt turned out to be the lesser evil. My uncle got what he deserved, and I've got powers I'll probably never give up. Now, if you like this story, well, remember, if you don't subscribe and like this video, I might just make you trip over a stool tomorrow.
Sorry, Claire. We decided you're staying down there until you lose some weight. Maybe then we won't be so embarrassed to be seen with you.
Wait, what? Please, I'm starving. Please let me out.
Nope. Maybe going to bed hungry will speed up your metabolism, though.
Her laughter echoed through the door as she walked away, leaving me in the dark. I was furious, humiliated, and terrified. Did they really plan to leave me here? That night, I drank water from a tap in the basement just to feel full enough to sleep. The next morning, I called out again, hoping they'd come to their senses. Instead, Uncle Mike's voice greeted me through the door.
We're still deciding how long to keep you down there. Maybe a week, maybe 2. We'll see. Depends how quickly you lose weight.
Panic set in. I couldn't survive like this. I had to find a way out, especially since I didn't for sure when they would let me out. I began searching the basement for anything that could help me. Eventually, I found some old boxes and stacked them up to reach a small window near the ceiling. My name is Claire, and I've always known I was different from my sister Jessica. It's not just that we don't get along, we're practically opposites in every way. Jessica is pretty, thin, and effortlessly popular. People are drawn to her like moths to a flame. Me? I'm the nerdy one. I love school. I'm more than a little overweight, and I'd rather spend my Friday nights reading than going to parties. I guess being so different wouldn't be such a problem if Jessica didn't make it her personal mission to remind me of it every chance she got.
God, Claire, could you be any more of a loser? Who cares about your stupid grades? No one's impressed.
Mom and Dad care. Besides, not everyone can coast through life on their looks like you do.
Oh, please. You're just jealous because I don't have to try to get people to like me. People are naturally drawn to me, whereas they see you and are disgusted.
They are not.
Of course they are. You really don't know just how ugly you really are. You're such a freak.
That was Jessica. Every word out of her mouth was meant to cut me down, to make me feel small. And the worst part? It worked. I hated how she treated me, but I didn't know how to fight back. The only saving grace was our parents. They were my rock, kind, loving, and supportive. No matter how awful Jessica was to me, Mom and Dad were always there to remind me that I was special in my own way, and that they truly loved me, and that they knew that I would go far in life. But then, everything changed, and not for the better. It was a rainy afternoon when the police knocked on our door. Mom and Dad had been in a car accident, and had been rushed to the hospital with severe injuries. Sadly, they didn't make it, and they passed away while doctors tried to save them. I can't even describe the pain of hearing those words. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Jessica cried, of course. But even in my grief, I could tell there was something hollow about it. She always knew how to put on a show, and this was no different. I really didn't think she was even capable of caring about anyone else other than herself. After the funeral, our aunt and uncle offered to take us in since they were childless. At first, I thought it would be okay, and that it would be a fresh start. They were polite and seemed genuinely kind, but that kindness didn't last long, at least not for me. From the beginning, it was clear they favored Jessica.
Jessica, you're such a beautiful young lady. We're so lucky to have you in our family.
With looks like that, you could be a model one day. Shame that Claire didn't get the same good looks. I guess every family has a black sheep.
I tried to impress them in my own way. I brought home straight A's, showed them awards I'd won, and even helped out around the house more than Jessica ever did. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. In fact, the more I did, the more they looked at me with disgust.
That's nice, Claire. But have you seen Jessica's new dress? Doesn't she look stunning?
School is fine and all, but you really should focus on losing a few pounds. You'd be much prettier if you tried, and people would like you far more. Don't you ever wonder how people must look at us as a family and see you and think poorly of us?
It's true. Your uncle, myself, and Jessica are beautiful people, and when our neighbors see you, they must wonder how someone fat and ugly could be related to us.
Their words hurt so much, and Jessica loved every second of it. She reveled in the attention they gave her and how cruel they were towards me. She made sure to rub it in my face whenever she could.
Face it, Claire. You'll never measure up to me. Just stop trying.
Life isn't about popularity or looks, Jessica. One day you'll be old and your looks will fade, but meanwhile, I'll still be smart and probably with a good job.
As if. I'll just marry some rich man, and while you are breaking your back working, I'll be living the life of luxury.
Their favoritism turned into outright cruelty. This became more common because my uncle worked for a magazine, and sometimes, due to Jessica's beauty, he would use her for makeup advertisements, earning thousands of dollars. But because I was fat, I couldn't be used, and they saw me as a burden. While they showered Jessica with new clothes and jewelry, I was left with hand-me-downs and snide remarks. It was as if I didn't exist, just an afterthought, a burden they were forced to tolerate. Then came the night that everything fell apart. One evening, Uncle Mike came home from work with big news.
I've got an important client coming over for dinner tonight. He's actually the publisher of the best magazine in this state. This could be huge for my career, so I need everything to be perfect.
He turned to Jessica and smiled.
Jessica, make sure you wear something nice. We want to impress him, and seeing your beautiful face will definitely do just that.
Then his gaze shifted to me and his smile vanished and turned into a nasty sneer.
As for you, Claire, you're staying in the basement. I don't want you embarrassing us. I don't want my client to see your ugly face and think poorly of me because of it.
What? But
Don't argue with me. Just do as you're told.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but the look on his face told me it wouldn't matter. Defeated, I grabbed a couple of books and went down to the basement. Hours passed as I sat there, my stomach growling. I hadn't been allowed to eat dinner, and the hunger was unbearable. When I finally heard the front door close and realized the client had left, I made my way to the basement door, only to find it locked. I pounded on the door, calling for help. Hello? Somehow, the door got locked. Can someone please let me out?
Sorry, Claire. We decided you're staying down there until you lose some weight. Maybe then we won't be so embarrassed to be seen with you.
Wait, what? Please, I'm starving. Please let me out.
Nope. Maybe going to bed hungry will speed up your metabolism, though.
Her laughter echoed through the door as she walked away, leaving me in the dark. I was furious, humiliated, and terrified. Did they really plan to leave me here? That night, I drank water from a tap in the basement just to feel full enough to sleep. The next morning, I called out again, hoping they'd come to their senses. Instead, Uncle Mike's voice greeted me through the door.
We're still deciding how long to keep you down there. Maybe a week, maybe 2. We'll see. Depends how quickly you lose weight.
Panic set in. I couldn't survive like this. I had to find a way out, especially since I didn't for sure when they would let me out. I began searching the basement for anything that could help me. Eventually, I found some old boxes and stacked them up to reach a small window near the ceiling. It was too small for me to fit through, but it gave me an idea. I wrote a note explaining everything, how I'd been locked in the basement, starved, and tormented by my family. Then I searched for something to make my story more believable. That's when I found an old tape recorder. I set it up near the door and recorded myself calling out for help. Sure enough, Jessica, Aunt Susan, and Uncle Mike all came to mock me.
Keep crying, Claire. Maybe it'll help you burn some calories.
You'll thank us later. This is for your own good.
Stop whining. You'll get out when we say you can. For now, we'll keep you locked down there. Of course, if you happen to die, though, we'll just celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll save so much money by not having to buy food for your fat ass.
Their voices were clear on the recording. I wrapped the cassette tape in my note and waited until the next morning. When I heard the neighbor heading to work, I pushed the window open and threw the bundle into their yard in front of them. I watched as they picked it up, read the note, and looked up at me in shock. Nervously, they tiptoed towards the house and spoke to me through the open window.
Is this true?
Yes. Please, help me, if you need proof. Please listen to the recording. They promised to call the police and ran off with the tape. Hours later, I heard sirens and the sound of officers pounding on the front door. There was shouting, arguing, and then gunfire. Moments later, the basement door burst open, and police officers rushed down to get me. They brought me to the neighbor's house, where I finally got to eat a proper meal while giving my statement. The officers explained what had happened.
When we arrived, your family claimed you weren't here. They said you'd run away. When we demanded to see the basement, your uncle threatened us with a gun. When we forcefully tried to get in, your uncle started shooting. One of our officers was forced to fire, and he was shot.
I later learned that Uncle Mike didn't survive his injuries, and he died on the way to the hospital. Aunt Susan and Jessica were arrested and charged with wrongful imprisonment, child abuse, kidnapping, and attempted murder. Jessica, despite being a minor, was tried as an adult because of the seriousness of the crimes and her role in them. Weeks passed, and they were both sentenced to 20 years in prison each. With Aunt Susan gone, I was given ownership of their house, but as a minor, I couldn't live alone. The neighbor who had saved me, Rebecca, offered to adopt me. I'll never forget the day the court approved it. I was skeptical that it would be an improvement, but was so very relieved to find out that it was the best thing to ever happen to me.
You're safe now, Claire. I'll take care of you. I promise that I will protect and keep you safe.
For the first time in years, I felt truly loved. Rebecca treated me like her own daughter, and life with her was everything I'd ever dreamed of. I had no intention of ever living in my aunt and uncle's home, and so I sold it and used the money to pay for college, and with the money left over, I invested it. Years later, I used that money that had grown while I was in school, and I bought my own home and started a life I was proud of. As for my aunt and Jessica, I heard rumors that my uncle's ghost keeps tormenting them. Inmates despise them after learning how horrible they were, often bullying them, seizing their food, or occasionally beating them. The worst happened when Jessica tried to seduce a guard. It backfired and was locked up in solitary confinement, and her sentence was extended by 3 months. As for Jessica and Aunt Susan, I made a point to often write them letters, just to let them know how happy and successful I'd become without them. And sometimes I will include photos of my vacation trips. Maybe it was spiteful, but it always makes me smile rubbing their noses in the fact that they are stuck in prison while I get to live my best life. Thanks for watching.
I bet it. My grandmother's bedroom was filled with photos of her younger days and trinkets from her travels with my grandfather. For the first time in months, I saw her smile when she saw them. I was happy to see her smiling again. The years that followed weren't easy, but they were worth every second. I took care of Grandma like she had once cared for me. I cooked her meals, read to her, and made sure she never felt lonely. My parents abandoned us entirely within the first year. My parents have always been self-centered, but I thought that maybe, just maybe, when Grandma got sick, they'd change. I was wrong. If anything, her illness only brought out the worst in them. Growing up, I was used to being ignored. My parents weren't cruel in the traditional sense. No, they were worse. They didn't yell or hit. They simply acted as if I didn't exist. Their lives revolved around social events, luxurious vacations, and maintaining appearances. They had a huge following and frequently posted to entertain their audience. I was just a background character in their world, an afterthought. Whenever I had difficult homeworks, they would never assist me.
Charles, stop bothering us. Can't you see we're busy?
But it's due tomorrow.
Figure it out yourself. You're old enough. Stop bothering me.
That was the essence of my childhood, teaching myself to navigate life because my parents couldn't be bothered. When I turned 15, nothing prepared me for the day Grandma moved in. It started subtly, with her forgetting small things. A pot left on the stove, her keys misplaced. At first, I thought it was just old age catching up with her. She was 75 after all. But then the forgetfulness turned into confusion. She forgot the way to her favorite grocery store. She forgot my name. I remember the day she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. It's going to progress. She'll need constant care. My parents were silent during the drive home, their faces set in stony expressions. I thought they were processing the news, trying to figure out how to help her. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Well, she's not moving in with us. I can't deal with another liability. Charles is more than enough trouble.
Absolutely not. We don't have the time or the resources for this. God, how can she be so wicked to fall sick now of all times? What are you guys saying? It's Grandma. She's family.
Family or not, we can't be expected to put our lives on hold for her. Who even gave you the permission to speak, young man?
Ignore him, babe. He's talking because he has nothing he's responsible for. You know, there are nursing homes for situations like this. Maybe we should take her there. But there were no nursing homes for Grandma. She refused to go, and I couldn't blame her. She'd lived her whole life in her little house, surrounded by memories of my late grandfather and the life they'd built together. She didn't want to be shipped off to a sterile facility to live out her days among strangers. So I took matters into my own hands. I was going to fight my parents for it. She's moving in with us. I can't let you abandon her like this. If you refuse, I'm going to tell all those fans of yours that you're both neglecting Grandma's health. My parents didn't protest, at least not outright. They couldn't afford to have a bad reputation on social media. But their resentment was palpable. They cleared out the guest room begrudgingly, complaining about the inconvenience the entire time.
This is ridiculous. We're not caregivers. I regret birthing this child.
Eventually, Grandma moved in with us. They avoided her as much as possible. My father left for work early and came home late, claiming he was too busy with meetings to help. My mother, who had no job and spent her days lunching with friends, acted as if Grandma didn't exist. It fell on me to take care of her. I was the one who cooked her meals, made sure she took her medication, and comforted her when she grew confused or frightened. One night, as I was helping her into bed, she grabbed my hand.
Thank you, Charlie. I don't know what I'd do without you.
Her words broke my heart. She deserved so much more than this. I couldn't do anything about my parents' case. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. Grandma had had a particularly bad morning, mistaking me for my grandfather and calling out for him in a panic. I managed to calm her down, but the incident left me emotionally drained. I walked into the living room, hoping for a moment of support from my parents. Instead, I found them laughing over glasses of wine, flipping through travel brochures.
We should book this one. Oh my God, this is going to be so fun. Vacation by the water is heavenly.
Are you serious? Grandma is struggling, and all you can think about is a vacation?
Don't start with us, Charles. What's our problem if she's struggling? We've given her a roof, isn't that enough? Get off my back, will you?
She's your mother. They stared at me as if I'd just said gibberish, and that's when it hit me that they didn't care. They never did. A week later, they proved it. I came home from school and found a note where my parents let me know that they'd taken my grandmother to a facility. They said it was for the best and asked me to not bother calling them because they were on vacation and won't be returning until 2 weeks. I grabbed my bike and pedaled as fast as I could to the address they left. The facility was cold and quiet. When I found Grandma, she was sitting alone in a small, sterile room, staring out the window. I apologized to Grandma for their behavior, and she said she was fine, but I knew she lied. She wasn't fine. I vowed then and there to do whatever it took to bring her back home. My parents had shown their true colors, and I couldn't rely on them, but I could rely on myself. After that day at the care facility, I made a promise to myself that no matter what it took, I would visit Grandma every single day. She needed me, and I wasn't going to abandon her like my parents had. The facility reeked of neglect. Despite my constant visits, I knew it wasn't enough. Grandma deserved better than that cold, impersonal place. 2 weeks later, my parents returned home from their vacation. They walked through the door, laughing about some trivial mishap with their luggage. The sight of them infuriated me. How could they laugh when Grandma was wasting away in a place she despised? Especially my mom. Grandma was her mother, and she was Grandma's only child. She should take care of her. My dad was even more stupid. He followed everything my mom did and couldn't advise her. I didn't wait for them to settle. I met them in the living room, holding a knife behind me, and told them what they needed to hear. Grandma's coming home and that's it. I can't stomach how careless you both are. It's unfair. What the hell is your problem, Charles? She's fine where she is. Can you stop bothering us already? She isn't. That place is killing her. You know she isn't fine.
Charles, she's old. She doesn't have much time left anyway. Don't bother yourself anymore. Please? We're just returning home and you're already being an ass. Would you rather be sent to a facility too?
Their callousness hit me like a slap. I pulled out the knife. If you don't bring her back, I swear I'll end my life. Right here, right now. That got their attention. My mother froze, her phone slipping from her hand, and my father's face went pale. They wore a look of panic, the kind I had never seen before. I wasn't bluffing, and they knew it. Eventually, my father spoke. Fine, she can leave the facility, but if you care about her so much, you'll take full responsibility. You'll live with her, in her house. We can't afford to keep her here, if I'm being honest with you. His condition was harsh, but it was nothing I couldn't deal with, so I agreed. 2 days later, Grandma was discharged, and I moved into her house with her. It was a mansion. My grandfather was a wealthy man, and had left the majority of his wealth to my grandmother. I bet it. My grandmother's bedroom was filled with photos of her younger days and trinkets from her travels with my grandfather. For the first time in months, I saw her smile when she saw them. I was happy to see her smiling again. The years that followed weren't easy, but they were worth every second. I took care of Grandma like she had once cared for me. I cooked her meals, read to her, and made sure she never felt lonely. My parents abandoned us entirely within the first year. They stopped calling, stopped visiting, and eventually, they stopped caring altogether. By the time Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep, I was 20. She had lived a long life, and I was grateful for the time we'd shared. Her will left everything to me, her house, her fortune, her legacy. Overnight, I became a multimillionaire. But the pain of what my parents had done lingered. They had treated her like a burden and discarded her like trash. I couldn't let it go. I needed to make them pay for the years of neglect, for the way they had treated both Grandma and me. I came up with a plan, something that would hit them where it hurt the most. Knowing how money-hungry they were, I created a fake business persona online. Through emails, I introduced myself as a wealthy entrepreneur seeking investors for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It didn't take long for them to bite. They were eager, desperate even, and I played my role perfectly. I hired an actor to handle the in-person meetings. The man was convincing, every bit the polished businessman my parents wanted to believe in. Over the course of several months, I reeled them in. They drained their savings, sold off assets, and invested 90% of their wealth into my fake company, all while dreaming of tenfold returns. And then I disappeared. The fake company folded overnight. The actor I had hired took his pay and left the country, and my parents were left scrambling to recover their money. They tried everything, but I had been meticulous. Every dollar they lost went into healthcare facilities I established in Grandma's honor. 2 months later, news of my wealth reached their ears. One afternoon, they showed up at the gates of my mansion. They still looked good, and I could tell they were still faking their wealth.
Charles, please. We're sorry for everything we did. Forgive us and help us, son. We've lost everything. Help us, please. Help us.
We know we were wrong. We shouldn't have abandoned you and your grandmother. Just give us a chance to make things right, please. They hadn't come out of love or remorse. They were here because they needed my help. If they hadn't lost all their wealth, they'd never have tried to find me. I decided to teach them a final lesson. I released my wild dog on them and recorded them getting chased around. It was a funny scene, watching my parents screaming and running about while my dogs ran after them. The dogs didn't harm them, but they chased them until they ran out of the property, screaming for their dear lives. I posted the video online and told everyone how my parents had abandoned my sick grandma with me when I was only 16. I also let everyone know that they were now broke and the life they were showing on the media recently was all fake. People believed me, and it led to thousands of them unfollowing my parents' page. They went from 250K followers to 20K in one day. By the end of that week, after more people found out that my parents were truly deceiving them, they unfollowed too, until my parents eventually ended up with 1K inactive followers. People talked about them everywhere, and as the media is, some added more to the stories flying around, tarnishing my parents' image even more. I thought that was the end until my mom took me to court to claim my grandma's wealth. Thankfully, Grandma made a video before she died. She gave me a flash drive and told me to watch it only after she was gone, and I respected her wish. So I took the video and showed it to my lawyer.
Hi, if you're seeing this, it means I am dead. My daughter has neglected me for so long, and therefore, everything I own now belongs to Charles. I know that after my passing, my daughter and her husband might cause trouble, so consider this as proof in case anything like that happens. I know my daughter very well.
The case was immediately dismissed. The news of that spread too, and they were dragged until there was nothing left of their reputation to destroy. Just 2 weeks later, I saw on social media that they'd been caught stealing from a local market. They were beaten so badly they ended up in the hospital. Everyone mocked them. I didn't feel pity for them. Heck, it was funny watching them getting beaten. They reaped exactly what they deserved. They later struggled to find jobs, but eventually both landed positions as garbage collectors. I heard their boss is mean to them and overworks them, giving them extra tasks after learning how cruel they were. Thanks for watching.